Hi my loves, welcome to this week's makeup tutorial. I'm just gonna jump right into it, and the first thing I'm gonna do as usual is to do my brows. I'm gonna be using the L'Oreal Brow Stylist pencil, I think it's called, and I'm gonna use it to pretty much fill in my brows, give it some shape before I go in with a little bit of MAC's dip down just at the very end of my brows where the hairs are a little bit scarce. This just ensures that my brows stay put throughout the entire day. Then I'm gonna go in with my primer, and of course I'm gonna be using the Nivea Aftershave Balm because it just makes my foundation last throughout the day. Next, I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna clean up my brows. I like to do this after I've done my primer, of course, because then everything will just once again stay put. Of course, I'm going to blend that out, and today I'm going to be using something that I don't think I've ever used this on my channel before, but this is a kit from Cinema Secrets. I've had this for a few years, but Sephora just recently started carrying Cinema Secrets foundation kits, which are absolutely beautiful, by the way. So the one that I'm going to be using today is kit number 3, and as you guys saw, it just has a nice gradation of colors from light to dark. So I'm using the center shade, or I should say use the center shade under my brows, and I'm going to use that same shade to highlight. But first I'm going to go in with the shade which is not the deepest but just the one up from that. 20167 is the number, and I'm going to use that as my foundation shade. I like to use, of course, a beauty blender to blend out these types of foundations because it just helps to diffuse the color. You can customize your coverage, but it just makes the foundation lay very well on the face, is pretty much what I'm trying to say. So here I go once again with the same kit, and I'm going to use that shade to highlight under my eyes, my chin, the bridge of my nose, as well as my forehead. I also went back in with a little bit of Nars creamy or radiant creamy concealer right there, just under my eyes, because that's pretty much where I would crease most often. Next, I'm going to go into this palette. It's just a Z palette that I just have some face products in. I'm going to use, I've been using a lot of the crown brushes, but this one is actually a foundation brush, and I'm going to use this to set my under eye. Darn it, mommy. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna use that powder to set the concealer. I like to do that before I bake, which I am gonna do today. And I'm gonna use the Ben Nye banana powder. And the reason why I like to do this technique is, 1, it makes your makeup stay on all day, and 2, if I am, or I should say, because I'm gonna use glitter today as well as doing my eyeshadow after my foundation, I like to use a little bit of excess powder, because if there's fallout, all I have to do is just brush it away and it doesn't affect the base. And then I'm gonna pretty much set the entire face. I like to do this because after you go in and you wanna bronze up your face or contour, it just goes on a lot smoother, and your bronzer or contour, whichever one you're doing. Today I'm gonna be doing both, which I usually do. It just makes it glide on a lot easier, and it looks smoother as opposed to looking patchy. Anyhow, the brush that I'm gonna use to do that is the C105 brush from Crown Brushes. And yeah, I'm just gonna put it pretty much in the areas where you would contour or bronze, on the forehead, under the chin, under the cheekbones, and I'm gonna use this color to contour my nose as well. But I'm gonna also go in with another shade, a deeper shade from Inglot, and I'm going to contour using that same brush. I go so hard on my contour. Seriously, look at my face. Like, I'm so focused on this contour. But anyhow, I'm gonna go back in with the e.l.f. powder brush. This is pretty much my blending brush. So once I go in, whatever I do, I go back with this brush. Sometimes I add a bit more powder to it, sometimes I don't. And I just pretty much use it just to blend and make sure everything kind of, not meddle together. You still wanna see the difference, but they should transition into each other, pretty much. So the brush that I'm using to do my contour unfortunately doesn't have a name on it, but I'm guessing that it is a crown brush. It's sort of like a larger flat definer brush, and I'm just going to use it to contour with the Hydra Touch powder from NYX. And as you guys are seeing, this powder is not very dark, so it's not going to be giving me a very strong contour. Then I'm gonna go back in with a little bit of powder on that same brush that I used to set my highlight, and I'm just going to clean up my contour. I actually don't like to use the Ben Nye banana powder to cook under my contour line because I find that it makes it look a little too stark for me. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of the Hydra Touch powder by NYX, and I'm just gonna use that just to clean it up a bit. For my eyes, I'm gonna go in with Soft Ochre Paint Pot by MAC, and I'm just gonna set it down with a little bit of powder so that once again, the eyeshadows glide on a lot better. For my eyeshadows today, I'm gonna use the Flame in Love palette by Makeup Addictions, which you guys can see I'm very excited about. But first, I'm gonna go in with Creme Brulee by Makeupgeek because that palette doesn't really have a transition shade. I'm gonna use Creme Brulee as my transition shade today. Next, I'm gonna also use another shade by Makeupgeek. This one is called Mirage. It's sort of like a satiny light shade, and I'm gonna use that as my brow bone highlighter. As I said, guys, I'm using pretty much all brushes from Crown Brushes, and the one that I'm using right there is the C411 brush, which is similar to MAC's 224 brush. This one is just a little bit denser. So I'm going to use that brown shade with another Crown brush, This one is the C433, which I would say is a dupe from MAC's 217 brush. This one is a little flatter, so it gives you a more precise application of eyeshadows, but it also helps you to blend it as well. So I actually kind of prefer this one. Depending on the look that I'm going for, I would probably be reaching for this brush a lot more because once again, it helps you to place the shade, but it also, you know, allows you to blend the edges as well, which you guys are seeing. So I'm going to use this brush. This one is the, which one is this? The SS012 brush, and I'm going to use it to apply Creme Brulee to my bottom lash line. I'm pretty much going to do what I did on the upper to the lower. But first, I'm going to use a flat definer brush, and I'm going to use that dark brown color right against the lash line, and then use a pencil brush and apply that dark brown in the inner as well as the outer part of the eyes. This is known as the sandwich method of applying eyeshadows, but I'm pretty much going to create a spotlight where the outer and the inner is dark, but the center is going to be light. And of course, as I said earlier, you know, I'm gonna add a little bit of glitter as well. So I'm gonna use that red shade on that same S433 brush, and I'm gonna use it to kind of blend the dark brown shades together. And of course, I'm gonna do the same thing on the lower lash line because I love to smoke out my lower lash line, and I like there to be a nice transition of colors that I used in the crease or on the upper lid on the bottom lash line as well. Then I'm gonna go in with that rose gold shade on which brush is this? The C464 brush. By the way, I wasn't sent these brushes or anything. I just, you know, I wanted to give you guys more brush options on my channel, and these are very affordable, and they are dupes for some very expensive brushes. So I wanted to, you know, kind of highlight the brushes that I'm using as well. So for glitter today, I'm going to use Lit Cosmetics glitter base as well as their glitter in the shade Oprah. It's a very fine glitter, as you guys could see. It's not a very chunky glitter, but it's sort of like that rose gold shade, and I'm just going to pat it onto the center of the lid. For my waterline, I wanted to go in with something light because I want my eyes to be bright. And I'm going to use the shade 68, which is the gel liner from Inglot. It's just the same thing as the 77, but it's just in a flesh toned color. And it was so creamy, it was getting into my eyes. So I kind of had to let it dry before I did anything else. For my lashes, these I think are by Nigel's Beauty Emporium that I picked up at IMATS, and I don't know the number, but I'll leave them in the description box. But I'm pretty much gonna put them on, and you want to pinch your lashes to the, your lash or your fake lashes, just to make sure that everything kind of has a nice swoop and you don't see where your lash ends or begin and your synthetic lash begins. I hope that made sense. For my blush today, I'm going to be using this palette by Nars with which brush is this? This one is the C405 contour brush, which I actually think is better for contouring than blushing. This one is just a lot firmer. It's too firm for blush. You can't really blend it, like sweep it, because it would be too harsh. That's why I'm doing the pat-in motion. So next time I'll use it for contour because I think the denseness of it would be better for that than for blush. For my highlight, I'm going to use the Morphe M510 brush, and I'm actually going to be using Stereo Rose highlighter by MAC. It's a very golden pinky type of highlighter. It was limited edition, but you know what, guys, use anything you want. I just like to do a gradation of my highlight, so I'm going to go back in with Bronze Glow by Bobbi Brown on another Morphe brush. This one is the 511 brush, and I'm just gonna pretty much keep that on the very tops of my cheekbones. I feel like gradiating your highlighter just gives it a more natural look, especially if you go back in and blend it. I don't like there to be like a stark line on the tops of my cheekbones, so I like to do a couple highlighters and make them kind of blend into each other. And of course, I want to go back in and blend it just to make sure that it kind of, transition into each other. That is the word of the day, transition. I'm going to use that same Bobbi Brown highlighter, and I'm just going to pop it in areas that I want to highlight a little bit more on the face. So on the bridge of the nose, in the waterline, as well as on my brow bone. And of course, you want to make sure you set your face. I like to use Fix Plus because it just makes everything looks like skin again. So once you do all your powders, you spray it, and then everything kind of looks a little bit more lived in as opposed to, too matte. For lips, I was a little bit going back and forth between doing a nude or a darker lip. I ended up going with the darker one. The two that I was going to use, or the two that I did show, were the True Nude Lip Foundations by Buxom, which I'm so obsessed with. I love these things so much. I have all the colors, but first I'm gonna line my lips with Mahagony Lip Pencil by MAC. The one that I chose to use is called Revealed. I think this is the darkest one that they have, but it's just a nice brownie shade. And that is it for the look, guys. I hope you did enjoy this look. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you guys in the next one.